Hey guys, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thanks so much for tuning in. Today's video is going to be about 5 new beauty things that I have been using. I've done these videos in the past and basically it's just where I run through some new to me things that I have been putting to the test lately, giving you some quick thoughts, swatches, a demo, I think of all of them, and basically give you the rundown of all the products. In the past, these videos have sometimes featured a combination of new to launch products and new to me products, like they've been around for a while, I'm just getting around to using them. But this video is actually entirely newly launched products. I think we all know brands have been coming out, all of their spring and summer launches have been coming out, so there is no shortage of things to try and talk about, so let's go ahead and dive in. First up, the nails. This is not part of the 5, I just know I'm gonna get questions about them and I am loving them. I just put these on, they are from Impress, some of my favorite press-on nails. If you want more info about press-on nails, I have a ton of videos about them. You could click the I or I'll put the playlist down below. But Impress is one of my favorite brands and these are part of the new effects collection. I think I ordered them, no, I found them in Walmart. I purchased them there. And this is in the shade or the style, I suppose, sold out. So you have matte teal and then you have this effects nail where it's kind of mirrored and iridescent. Love them. And I feel like they're so perfect for summer. All right, now onto the products. The first one, actually 2, these kind of go together, are from the Smashbox and Vlada collection. Now they sent me the whole collection, but I feel like these are launches that I'm kind of late to. They've been out now maybe for a month, maybe even over a month. So I feel like I'm kind of late to the game. There are so many videos out there with great information about this collection. I feel like mine wouldn't really be adding anything meaningful to that conversation. So I figured I'd talk about some of them here, but if you want to know more about any specific product from the collection, let me know down in the comments and I'll either reply to you there, or if enough people are interested, I'll make a separate video. But I just figured there are so many great videos out there already. There's probably no need for another one, but let me know. The 2 products I want to talk about, actually there are 3, but the 2 products that I like that I'm going to talk about are the Petal Metal Primer, the Photo Finish Petal Metal Primer, and the Petal Metal Shimmer Spray. And I have to say, the fact that I like the primer surprised me a little, well, a lot. I am not a primer person in general. It's only recently that I've discovered primers and I have a video on the kinds of primers that I like that I'll link to. But I am not a primer person in general, especially, I mean, Smashbox has kind of a classic silicone-y type formula that some people absolutely love. That is not for me, and a ton of other primers out there have a similar texture, and so I just tend to avoid them. And so when I saw this was going to be part of the Photo Finish collection, I was a little skeptical. But something about this, I don't know if it's the pigment in it, if they had to tweak it because it's slightly tinted with a rose gold metallic hue. I don't know if they had to change the formula so much to accommodate for that it's entirely different from their Photo Finish formula, but it is so unlike a slippery silicone-like texture that I find it actually works with my makeup. I have combination skin, and so what I've found is that those slippery silicone primers they don't help at all. They make my makeup slide off faster. Not into it, not a good look. And this, I was really into. It creates a nice, uniform, but illuminated base. It keeps my makeup on, like it doesn't feel like it's gonna make it slip off, and I really liked it. I was kind of surprised at how much I liked it. Especially great for summer if you like wearing a matte foundation but you don't want it to get totally flat with it. You know, if you're wearing matte foundation and matte setting powder to make sure that your makeup stays in place all day, I especially love using something like this underneath the makeup to just keep that lit from within and keep things from looking too flat. The same could really be said for the Petal Metal Shimmer Spray. It does essentially the same thing. Unlike their primer, don't make the mistake I made. Unlike their primer waters, you shouldn't spritz this over your makeup. The first thing I did when I got this was just go to town, all over on top of my makeup. But I'm not sure if it's, again, because there is a good amount of pigment in here. It's like the water plus a beautiful rose gold pearlescence mixed into it. Those droplets get bigger and they sit on your face and you can't really buff and blend it in over your makeup. So when they dry like that, you ended up with like these rose gold freckles. Not a bad look. You just need to know what you're getting into when you do that. So, and then if I would have actually read the directions, it does say to spray under your makeup and blend before applying your makeup. So essentially these do the same thing, but one is just a little bit thinner. So this I would recommend for someone who isn't into this thicker primer-like formula. They just want a thin water-like texture that just sinks right into their skin, that is who I would recommend the Shimmer spray to. Although today you'll see in the demo I used one over the other. I got really close because I wanted to see if it would show up on camera, like how big the droplets come out of this spray. I'm not sure if it came across that way, but fingers crossed it did. Either way, just take my word. Do not spray this over your makeup. Please learn from my mistakes. Alrighty, next thing, and something I'm not as fond of from the Smashbox Lotta collection are the Petal Metal Shimmer Drops. Again, another thing that I really should have read the directions on, because the first thing I did with these guys, it's just like shimmer in a liquid medium. First thing I did here was like put it on my shoulder because I thought it was the world's tiniest body highlight. It's not. It is for your lips. It's like a lip topper, and it's the shimmer, kind of like chunkier shimmer that comes in a super thin medium. So thin that the shimmer is clearly heavier, sinks to the bottom. You have to give it a good shake before you go and apply it. And then it comes with this dropper. This actually comes in 2 different shades. The one that I am holding now is Gold Glitz. And then the other one is Rose Glitz, which is like a softer, between the two, gold is a little bit more yellowy gold, whereas rose is a little bit soft pinky champagne. Both do the same thing, and essentially you apply them over bare lips, or if you go to apply like a matte or even one of their metallic always on liquid lipsticks or any liquid lipsticks. The point is just that they apply a thin coating of shimmer that's not supposed to mess up the lip product underneath. And they function that way. They totally function that way. They're easy to use if you just get a little drop on your finger and you pat it in. It's easy peasy to use. I found them to be a little bit drying though. This super thin base, I think there might be an alcohol in it or something, because it dries immediately, leaving just the shimmer over top of your whatever base you apply it on. But as a result, my lips just felt like it just sucked all the moisture out of them, and especially when you're wearing a liquid lipstick, not flattering. You get the lines and the creasing and that kind of look, and it's just not a good look for me, not one that I'm going after. And if I really want shimmer in my lipstick, granted this is chunkier shimmer, but they also launched metallic liquid lipsticks in this collection, and then just also have them otherwise in their always on collection. So if you want that hint of shimmer, you can go with those. I think it's a really comfortable long wearing formula, as opposed to these, which add a little bit of a chunkier shimmer, but dry your lips out as a result. So these were just not for me. Maybe if you're wearing them for the short term, you're not so much worried about, a full day's worth of wear, they're fine. But yeah, these were just not for me. Next up is the Butter London Glaze Shimmering Eye Palette. First of all, how gorgeous is this packaging? But for those of you who aren't familiar, the Butter London first started with their Glaze Eye Gloss collection, which is like a jelly texture that you can apply directly over your eyelid or as an eyeshadow topper, and they look like a wet glossy eye product, but they dry down, so you don't have to worry about like a normal literal glossy eye product where it will crease and just not last throughout the day. This will give you that glossy eye look, but it will dry down and last all day. It doesn't flake or smudge or budge on me. They're phenomenal formulas, and they have some really gorgeous shades out now because they've just been expanding the shade range, so definitely check them out. Also, they're frequently included when Ulta does their 25 Days of Beauty periodically throughout the year. They'll be included in there, and I think they're typically like 50% off. So if there is a time to buy, that would be it, and I just cannot recommend them enough. Then they broaden the collection to include like a facial highlighter or primer type thing, and blushes and bronzers. Those I'm less crazy about because the blush bronzers in particular I found broke my makeup a little bit if I wasn't super careful when applying, so just a little bit more care that needs to be taken with those, but highly recommend the eye products. So they sent me this palette, and when I first saw it I was like, no, they did not put the Glaze Eye Gloss texture into a palette format, and they didn't. It is actually a pressed shadow palette, but wouldn't it be great if they did? So this is a pressed shadow palette, if I can keep it open, and the premise here is the box. It just says a luxe gorgeous palette of silky smooth powders inspired by the Glaze Eye Gloss collection. So my guess is that they were going after creating that oil slick or like wet glossy eyelid look, but with a powder texture that might be more friendly to people who are less used to or don't want to work with a jelly eye texture. To me, that's what, in my mind, this is supposed to be. So it is a palette of 7 shades, all of which are, I say shimmery, but I would say they're borderline metallic. I'm wearing them on my eyes today. There isn't a matte shadow in here, obviously, so I used my Butter Collection palette, the Butter Bronzer from this palette, to just run that through the crease. You don't need the palette, though. You could just take the individual bronzer. But that is what I put in my crease, and then I used a couple of the shades from this palette to just create a subtle shimmery eye look today. I've used them both both wet and dry. They don't specify if you can use it wet, but I just figured I'd give it a try with this texture because I figured it would amp up the reflectivity. Is that a word? I think it's a word. The reflectiveness. Whatever, you get it. It made the formula shinier, but not at the expense of the shadow pan. Like, you don't get hard pan by dampening your brush with a setting spray and then using that across your eye. So I think you can use them both wet and dry. I find drier, they get a little bit chunkier, you know, just like with like any normal eyeshadow, it just, the glittery texture is a little bit more apparent. It's a little bit more separated. Whereas if you foil the shadow, it becomes more of this smooth, uniform, metallic-y sheen, which I think is nice because it gives you some versatility in terms of how you want to wear it. But at the end of the day, it is an all shimmer palette. So just something you need to keep in mind if you feel like you need a matte shadow, like I typically like one in my crease like I have today. This might not be your one and done go-to palette that you throw in your travel bag and you're good to go, but boy does it create a really nice highlighted shimmery look across the lid that I think is going to be really nice for summer. Also, these two shades here on the end I've used as facial highlighters as well. I think they're really pretty for that. Definitely with a light hand, I mean, unless you're going for like a super in your face kind of highlight, but I have found them to be really nice for that too, especially because in the camera I feel like this looks a little bit soft golden yellow, but it's really more of an iridescent pearl base with a strong golden shift. So I feel like you can't really tell that in the pan, but that's part of why it makes it such a good facial highlighter, is because the base itself, you can't really tell you're wearing anything until you turn to the light and then bam, it's like in your face, which I love in a highlight. And the last products I want to talk about are the new Becca Glow Glosses. They sent me, I believe, all the shades in the collection. There are 10. I only have 8 here to share today. I've already given 2 to my mom because they were these soft, nudie, peachy shades that they're just so her, and so I gave her those before I had a chance to film this. Today I am wearing Chocolate Geode, which is just gonna be such a perfect summer bronze. I can feel it. It's so gorgeous. But the premise behind these is that they are named and I think created. Like, the colors are based on the blushes and highlighters that they are named after. So Chocolate Geode is one of their new highlighters. Then they also have Opal, another great highlighter, Foxglove, which is one of their blushes, Dahlia, another blush, Rose Quartz, one of their highlighters, Snapdragon, another blush, and then these two must be blushes too, Tiger Lily, and Camellia. But I really like these and have been getting more into the gloss game in general. I feel like the pendulum across the beauty community has swung into the matte, long-wearing liquid lips, and now I feel like slowly but surely everyone's like getting away from that, going back to glosses. We don't care so much about the long-wearing. We're more after comfort and shine and decent pigmentation that doesn't, you know, sink into fine lines and stuff, which can sometimes be tricky with pigmented glosses. For the Chocolate Geode, for instance, the one that I'm wearing today, has a good amount of pigment to it, and occasionally that pigment, if it's not suspended correctly in the formula, it will just sink right into your fine lines and then bleed out, which again, not a good look, not the look I'm after with my gloss. But I found with each and every one of these shades, specifically the more pigmented shades, that they stay in place without bleeding throughout the day. It's a gloss, so it's not going to be ultra long wearing, but in terms of glosses, it is relatively long wearing. Like, it will last through light drinking, light snacking. You will have to reapply, but it is gloss, so it's pretty easy. They're not totally opaque. They have a good amount of pigment, but I feel like the fact that they're not entirely opaque gives you a little bit of wiggle room to kind of apply on the go and kind of more quickly than you might with a liquid lipstick where you have to be more precise. They all have a sweet, kind of lightly minty scented formula. You really don't feel it on your lips though, in terms of tingling or a sensation like that. Like, I wouldn't say they're plumping at all, beyond the fact that they highlight the lips to make them visually look a little bit more full. There is no plumping action going on, so you might smell the mint, but I don't notice it once it's on my lips. The formula is relatively thin. It's not like thick and goopy, and it's not sticky to where if you put quite a bit on, you're gonna get those lip like strings as you kind of blot your lips together. Of course, you put enough on, you will, but I find building up the color to the extent that I want to, it still remains a pretty thin, comfortable formula that I don't notice sticking together and kind of glopping together across the lips. So yeah, I really like the formula, and I've definitely been putting a few of these shades, specifically Foxglove and Snapdragon, in my purse because they're just really good go-to softly pinky type, like they give you enough pigment to give your lips a pop, because my deal lately has been bare eyes, mascara, and then a glossy pop of color on the lips. So these two have kind of been my go-tos because they give you just enough color to make the lips pop, but it's not like a big lip statement, which I am a fan of. This is just a glossy stage I'm going through. Alrighty, and that is it for me. Those are the 5 things or categories of things that I've been using lately, I guess. I'd love to hear the same from you. Let me know what new stuff you're using or what new stuff you've tried and not loving so much. Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye guys.